All right. I know 7 minutes early, but the music stopped. I didn't want to put on a new track, so we're just going to go ahead and start. Welcome. Welcome. Brittany, you mentioned Harry Potter there. So my wife and I are both big Harry Potter fans. And so every Halloween we do, well, Halloween, every October, we'll do a great big Harry Potter marathon. And it chases all of our kids out of the house because they have no interest in that, but we love it. We love it. Welcome, everyone. Glad to have you aboard. We got, I know every single week I say, this is one of my favorite lectures, right? Harry Potter fan fiction, that would be so cool. I like what I do, and this is a really interesting one. Now, I'm going to give you a quick sort of heads up, all right? We're going to do 2 readings today. We're going to be talking the Protestant work ethic, and then we're going to be talking about abstract land and so on and so forth. It's going to require kind of a mental shift, just so you know. The Protestant work ethic, pretty simple to understand because you live it, all right? This is a great example of you already know what we're going to talk about. My job is to help you understand what you already know. We already live in a world that is, to some degree, influenced by the Protestant work ethic, although I maintain less so, but we'll talk about that. So you're going to understand the Protestant work ethic, and you're going to go, great, fantastic. Then we're going to do our juggling break, and then things are going to get weird, all right? So it's going to get all philosophical and abstract and so on, so I'll help you along, but bear with me, okay? So you're already kind of like, whoa, this sounds weird. All right, so let's go ahead and start with our lecture here, right? So here's the deal. You'll remember last week we said, you know what? Business is big, business is booming. And religion kind of was getting nervous that business was taking up so much of people's mind share. You know, they're spending all their time trying to build up treasures on earth, and they're not worrying at all about building treasures in heaven because, there's some cool crap right here. I want this, right? Okay. And then we talked about the various ways that religion was kind of coping with this, right? The quiet approach, the ascetic approach, the indifferent approach, whatever, and so on and so forth. Okay. But then one of you, and I think it was Brittany, I don't remember, but one of you said, well, now hold on. If conservatives are so fixated on business, but they're also really fixated on religion, how do they reconcile these, right? And that's what we're talking about today, because we are moving. Okay, it was Brittany. Great. Glad I could remember that, all right? So we are now moving from where religion is nervous about business to now, get this, wrap your mind around this, all right? We are moving to where business is required for religion. If you want to go to heaven, you have to engage in business. Now, that's a big change, right? That's a big change, but that's the change that we're looking at here. So let me go ahead and take you into this and talk you through it. Now, we're going to be going through several steps, right? So I'm going to present principle upon principle upon principle. And if we accept each principle, which the Protestants did, right? I'm not asking you to accept each principle. I'm saying understand what was going through the Protestants' minds, right? I got a dot there, drives me nuts. And so we're going to go through principle upon principle, and then we'll see the end result. And the end result is like mind-blowing, okay? I need to change the position of my mind blow so I can do that better. Okay, here we go. Here's the first thing we need to understand. We're talking about Calvinists here, right? Calvinists were, like many Christian sects, obsessed with, am I going to heaven? Am I going to heaven? All right? And so they really wanted to make sure that they were constantly, you got to remember the old Protestants and Calvinists and so on and so forth. They were obsessed, okay? And so they were obsessed every moment of every day with, am I going to heaven? How can you don't earn your way into heaven. We're not going to get into all that and so forth. But essentially, how do I make sure I get into heaven? Okay. So here's the first thing. Here's a quote from the reading. We're going to read a lot from the reading. Not leisure and enjoyment, but only activity serves to increase the glory of God according to the definite manifestations of his will. Okay. So first of all, if I'm obsessed about going to heaven, I need to make sure that every moment of my life is glorifying God. Okay? So that's the first thing I want you to hold on to. Every moment of my life has to be spent glorifying God. Okay, well then, how do we do this? Well, first of all, laziness is out. No laziness. Waste of time is thus the first and in principle the deadliest of sins. The span of human life is infinitely short and precious to make sure of one's own election. Loss of time through sociability, idle talk, luxury, even more sleep than is necessary for health, 6 to at most 8 hours, is worthy of absolute moral condemnation. Okay, so just think about this. Not to get morose or anything, as you get older, you get more morose. You have no idea when you are going to die. You have no idea. It could be 80 years from now. It can be 8 hours from now. You have no idea. And so your time on this earth, you need to just assume is like super, super limited and precious. And you need to make sure that you are spending every moment of that time glorifying God. And we glorify God through working, okay? Not laziness, work. All right, so the first principle that we want to play with here is work your ass off. Write that down in your mental brain. The first principle, we're going to work our asses off. All right, next principle. Your job is not just a job. It is a divine calling. Okay, so check this out from the readings, right? What God demands is not labor in and of itself, but rational labor in a calling. In the Puritan concept of the calling, the emphasis is always placed on this methodical character of worldly asceticism, not as Luther on the acceptance of lot, which is God has irretrievably assigned to man. Okay. Let's put this in English. By the way, Brittany Short says, life is short. Spend your days doing the things that bring joy. Oh, man, we're going to talk about that because I am so on board with you. I am so on board. We'll talk about that. Okay. So your job isn't just a job. It is a divine calling because it is through your work that you would, that you demonstrate, you glorify God. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm reading comments and at the same time thinking, I can't do that. Me no smart like that. It is through your work that you glorify God. Therefore, if it is through your work that you glorify God, your work is a divine calling, okay? So check this out. It really puts into context the idea of calling in sick to work if that is a divine calling. right? Work is sacred. All right, this is where the Protestants are going with this. All right, work is sacred. Okay, let's keep going. So, even the wealthy shall not eat without working, for even though they do not need to labor to support their own needs, there is God's commandment which they, like the poor, must obey. For everyone, without exception, God's providence has prepared a calling, a job, which he should profess and in which he should labor. It is a direct consequence of the divine scheme of things. So here's the idea. Work isn't just to live. It's to glorify God. Even if you're rich and you don't need to work, you need to work, because it's not just about staying alive. It's about glorifying God in this calling which he has given you, right? Brittany says, I made that choice this year with my mental health as improving greatly. We are going to talk about this because I'm doing the same thing. But the more I keep having to go to the hospital, the more, right? Anything that isn't your joy. I'm going to talk about that here in a moment, because I'm kind of doing the same sort of thing. So we're on the same page. Okay. So next principle. The deference of man to the classes and occupations established through historical development became for Luther, as we have seen, a direct result of divine will. Perseverance of individual in the place which, within the limits that God has assigned to him, was a religious duty. Okay, let's put that in some English, right? What it basically says is, know your place. Everybody has a slot. Everybody has a job. And each job, as we're going to see, is equally as important when it comes to glorifying God. It's not that, a janitor cannot glorify God as well as an accountant, right? No, every job can glorify God equally. So, know your place, stay in your place, and glorify God through the calling which has been given to you. All right, let's keep going. This worldly Protestant asceticism acted powerfully against the spontaneous enjoyment of possessions. It restricted consumption, especially luxuries. Okay. Now, real quick, Jay here says, even the wealthy should not eat without working, right? Yeah. It seems this quote has changed throughout the years, eh? Oh, a lot has changed. Okay. I'm all excited. Oh, I'm so excited because you guys are getting how my light fell. There we go. Good enough. You guys are seeing where this is going. Okay, you guys are seeing where this is going, so hang in there. So here's the thing. We're going to work our asses off, okay? But dudes, Jesus wasn't ostentatious. He was ascetic, right? And so likewise, the Calvinists said, okay, you're going to work your asses off, but don't be wearing bling. Don't be spending ostentatiously. Don't spend on luxuries and so forth. You need to live a minimalist, monkish lifestyle. Okay? All right, so see where this is going. You glorify God through your work. Your work is a calling, and you shouldn't spend a whole lot, especially on luxuries. Okay, so where does this go? Wealth is thus bad ethically only insofar as it is a temptation to idleness and sinful enjoyment of life. And its acquisition is bad only when it is for the purpose of later living merrily and without care. Okay. So while all before, historically, people, don't build wealth, it's bad and it makes you greedy and so forth. The Calvinists are saying, no, wealth is kind of inevitable because you're going to work really, really hard and you're not going to spend it. See what I mean? I don't care what job you have. I don't care the job. If you work 14 hours a day, 6 days a week, you are going to make money and not spend it. Okay. If you are going to work 14 hours a day, 6 days a week, and not buy new Nikes every 3 months, you are going to have a lot of money. And that's not bad, according to the Calvinists, so long as it doesn't tempt you to live luxuriously and leisurely and so forth, right? Gardner, these slides are not posted, but I'll get them to you. Send me an email and I'll post these slides. Okay, but of course, there's the video here. All right, so let's keep going. And actually, let me come back over here. It's a good question, so let me do that. And yeah. Brittany, 14 hours a day, 6 days a week is not sustainable physically and mentally. It depends on what you're doing. And back then, they weren't concerned about what is sustainable. They were concerned about going to heaven. You might die early, but remember, when you die, you go to heaven. So they weren't concerned about, I need a mental health day and this isn't sustainable and I don't feel thriving in my life and so forth. They're concerned about getting into heaven. So yeah, different mindset, right? Some people are workaholics, especially, Jay, small business owners. I'll tell you stories momentarily to kind of put some of this in context. I worked for an arborist startup a couple years ago, and my boss was a millionaire, at least 16 hours a day. Yeah, but it's a different kind of work, especially when it's your own business. When it's your own business, it feels different. It is work. It is work. If anybody ever tells you that if you work your own business, it's not work, they don't know what they're talking about. It's work, but it's different, right? Okay. So let's keep going here. So check this out. All right. Oh, did we do the last one? Hang on. Okay. Let's see. Oh, okay. Here's the kicker. Here's the last piece, right? So you're going to work. You're going to make money. You're not going to spend it on luxuries. What are you going to do with the money? You are going to invest it. So this is from the reading. Earning and investing as a performance of duty and a calling is not only morally permissible, it is actually enjoined, meaning it is required. It's required. The parable of the servant who was rejected because he did not increase the talent which was entrusted to him seemed to say so directly. Okay, this is important that we understand this, right? So if you know the parable of the talent, I apologize, but you're going to be like, yeah, I know the parable of the talent, right? Yeah, you see where this is going, right? So let me tell the parable of the talent. Here's the thing. All right, so there's this rich dude. I'm going to put it in modern day terms because I don't know all the, exchange rates of a talent and a cubit and a yard and a dollar. So modern day terms. There's this rich dude, and he says, I need to go out of the country for a while. I have some business to take care of. I'm actually going to be out of the country for a year, and I don't want to have to worry about my finances during that year. So you three managers, I'm going to let you take care of my finances. You, Bob, I'm going to give you $100,000, and you need to manage this $100,000. You, Linda, I'm going to give you $50,000, and Linda, you manage the $50,000. And then you, Mark, okay, I'm going to give $25,000. You manage the $25,000. And then he pieces out. Okay. So Bob, who has the $100,000, he says, well, heck, I better do good on this because my job's on the line. So he goes ahead and invests the money and in a year doubles it. Pretty darn good. All right. Linda, she's no dummy. She does the same thing. She says, I have this $50,000. I need to invest it. And so she invests it and she doubles it. Great. But Mark, he's like, I got this $25,000 and investing looks risky to me. I certainly don't want to lose this $25,000 because if I lose it, I lose my job. So I'm just going to put it under a mattress and keep it safe. I'm going to make sure I don't lose any of it. Okay. So boss man comes back after a year and he says, okay, return and report. What's going on? How are my finances looking? And Bob says, well, you gave me $100,000. I invested it and I doubled it. Here's $200,000. And the boss says, that's fantastic, marvelous, perfect. This is what I expected. Here's your reward. And then he goes to Linda. So what's up? What's the story? And she goes, I did the same thing. I took the $50,000 you gave me and I invested it and I doubled it. And he said, marvelous. Here's your reward. Note, Bob and Linda got the exact same reward because the boss isn't concerned about the money. The boss is concerned with, did you take what I gave you and act responsibly with it, right? So it doesn't matter what your job is and what your output is. It's, are you fulfilling the calling that I gave you? Okay, so then he goes to Mark and said, so, sup, Mark? 25,000. What's the story? And Mark says, well, I'll tell you what, I sure as hell wasn't going to do anything that might risk losing any of it. So I just kind of cubbied it away under a mattress. Here's your 25,000. And the boss is like, not cool, man. Not cool. This is not what we do. This is not how we build wealth. This is not what I expected from you. You're fired. You're out. Okay? So here's what it comes down to. And this is the big kind of aha, all right? From the reading. When the limitation of consumption, don't spend it, is combined with the release of acquisitive activity, work your butt off and earn money, the inevitable practical result is obvious: accumulation of capital through ascetic compulsion to save. The restraints which have been imposed upon the consumption of wealth naturally serve to increase it by making possible the productive investment of capital. So in other words, earn it, but don't spend it, invest it. And this is how, compounding interest, great example. So here's what's really interesting, guys, is this formula, stupidly simple, obvious, okay? And in fact, and feel free to Google it on another screen, Google everything you need to know about finance on one index card, 3x5 index card. Everything you need to know about finance on one 3x5 index card. There's this famous finance guy, and he said, listen, there's no secret to getting rich. Everything you need to know can fit on one 3x5 index card. Although, ironically, he wrote a book about the 3x5 index card, so there's more there, right? But the point is, the stuff on the index card is like boring. Max out your 401k, invest in index funds, and all that. It is so boring. And yet, I'm telling you, it works. Now, so why isn't everybody doing it? 2 reasons. One is it's boring, and we all know we like sexy more than boring. Jay, music to your ears? Yes. And the other reason is it takes time. Okay? That gets us a new one. It takes time to get rich going about this process. And so many people today are like, time? Screw that. I want to be rich and have passive income a month from Thursday, right? No, it doesn't work like that. So that's one of the things that's really frustrating in life is that, if you take actions today, folks, and I mean this, if you take actions, very simple actions today, by the time you're 45 or 50, you will be rolling in dough. But you're like, I don't want to wait till I'm 45 or 50. Yeah, well, when you're 45 or 50 and still living paycheck to paycheck, you let me know how you feel about waiting till 45 or 50. Consumption, huge. Consumption is absolutely huge. Yes, overconsumption, yes. Social media is a big contributor to blame for wanting to become an overnight success. Yes! Okay, just so you know real quick, guys. So I have Nutshell Brainery. It's a YouTube channel. I have 7,000 subscribers and I'm monetized and all that sort of stuff. I will go ahead and tell you right now, I'll tell you, because I just got my tax form from last year, how much I made from Nutshell Brainery. I have over 500 videos. I've been doing this 7 years. I made $944 last year. $944 for my entire channel. And so those are not the stories that you hear about in social media. The ones you hear about are social medias. I was starting a channel and I accidentally sneezed and now I got a check for $400,000. When it can be a tool, people feed into distraction rather than what they are capable of. Oh my gosh, yeah. Oh, that's and then everything you can imagine is real. I love it. There are snags to the concept, though. I'm on Medicaid, which being a student, so I've limited to only $20K of assets. Yes. Yeah, you know what? So I have some experience in that area. I won't go into detail, but just trust me when I say I have some experience in that area. It's jacked up the way it works that way. It really is. Okay, let's keep going. So let's talk about the influences today. Yeah, not 20,000, 2,000. I know. I know. Sometime we'll talk and I'll tell you why I know. Okay, so there's a Puritan work ethic, folks. That was a great shot, right? So this Puritan work ethic affects us today. All right. Have you ever been playing a video game and your grandparents came in and said, "What are you doing? Wasting your time. It's a beautiful day. Get outside and it's great," right? You feeling like, oh, I'd really like to go do this, that, and the other, and your parents or your grandparents are like, you're wasting your time. You need to go off and do something productive. Or maybe your grandparents, your grandfathers, since back then it was mostly men working. Your grandfather didn't retire until he was 72 and then, couldn't slow down enough and was always building stuff. This is the Protestant work ethic. But I want to show you how it affects us directly, right? And here's how I want to do this. Here's a quote from the reading talking about being poor, right? So, and I know we've got a conversation there going on, so I'm going to go ahead and give us a couple of there. You can only accumulate so much. Yeah. Okay, so let's check this out. To wish to be poor, it was often argued, was the same as wishing to be unhealthy. It is objectionable as a glorification of God and derogatory to the glory of God, especially begging. Oh, they hated begging. On the part of one who is able to work, not only the sin is slothful, but a violation of the duty to brotherly love according to the apostle's own word. Okay, so I want to ask a question. And I want to be clear, there's no wrong answer. And I am going to posit something afterwards, right? So, throw up in the chat, and you can say yes and no, right? You can argue both sides. And as a matter of fact, I think arguing both sides is a sign of intelligence. I really believe that. So, is panhandling a job? Is panhandling work? Is panhandling work? And just say yes or no, and then give a quick reason. Okay? So, Jocelyn, you said yes. Colin, you said no, but give me a quick reason. And like I say, you are welcome to argue both sides, which I am going to do. Okay? Why do you think it is or is not work? Usually homeless, but are homeless people work? Yes, it takes effort and time to get the money. So then we're going to say a yes because it requires effort and time and it does earn money. Therefore, it constitutes some level of work. What's the difference between it and GoFundMe? That's one of my posits, right? The only difference between panhandling and GoFundMe is the technology. No real physical labor. Okay, so does a job have to include physical labor for it to be work? I'm a professor. I don't lift squat, right? So does it have to include physical labor? What they make is untaxable, right? So if it doesn't pay taxes, it's not work. Well, I got news for you. Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg don't pay taxes legally. Legally, they don't pay taxes. Google sometime, buy, borrow, die. That's how they do it. What's the definition of work then, right? I consider my writing work, and yet, you're not laboring or earning money. Here's the thing, right? Is it even work if you're not earning money? Volunteer work is work. Raising a family is work, and yet you're not paid for it. Nonprofit money? Yeah, absolutely. Dictionary definition, activity involving mental or physical effort done in order to achieve a purpose or a result. Panhandling sure seems to me to fit that bill, right? Saw a study of homelessness, $20 a day. Actually, it's more than that. We'll talk about it. I'm going to give you some examples, right? Work doesn't equate to money, right? I agree. I meant to use untaxable earnings. Oh, okay, good clarification. You guys are just crushing this. I'm not going to be able to keep up with you. Okay, so with that, all right, let's go on to this. This is a video. When I'm in my lecture class, I go ahead and show this video. But here I'm just going to give you the main quotes and so forth that I want to focus on. Depending on the day, the location, who's panhandling, what techniques they're using, they can earn anywhere from $15 to $30 an hour. $15 to $30 an hour. Okay? If you want to find this video, you're welcome to check it out. Fascinating. Okay? But here's the point I want to focus on, right? Mike Adams makes about $700 a week, working 2 to 3 hours a day. He's been doing this for 20 years. Mike Adams is the one on the left with the sign, Traveling Folk, Hungry and Broke. Okay? So, he's having a conversation with that reporter. Here's how it goes down. Interviewer: what do you do when people say, why don't you get a job? Mike: I've got one. I'm a traveler. You consider this a job? Damn right. Do you want to do anything else? No. This is my job. I enjoy doing it. It's what I want to do. Okay? So, let's continue the conversation. Would you say you are a professional panhandler? Working on it. You've got to improve? You want to do more? Mike: yeah, don't you improve at your job? Dear interviewer: yeah, I improve at my job. Fascinating. Okay, so, here's the thing, and we got a couple, I must admit, I don't actually care if homeless people aren't being taxed. Actually, even if they were to pay taxes, it would be returned. It would be returned. If you're down at that level of poverty, it would be returned. So whether they pay it or not is irrelevant, right? Most folks are indicated, most of these folks are indicted felons or have some charges. I'm not going to necessarily agree that most, because I don't know. But here's something to consider, folks. I can name a whole bunch of poor people. Their names are Gardner, Jay, Brittany, Gabby, Jocelyn. You're poor. That's why you're here. That's why you're taking advantage of a tuition system with government subsidies paid for by homeowners, taxes, right? This is why, Christina, this is why some of you live at home, because you're poor. Now, we don't look at you and say, oh, look at you, you're poor, ergo you're scum. We don't do that. We go, hey, you have some real potential. You have potential. As a matter of fact, son of a bitch, you know what we're going to do? We are going to invest in you, because you're kind of giving me vibes that you are going to rock. So we're going to give you government subsidies. We're going to let you live at home to get on your feet. We're going to give you this education. We're going to give you, easy access to this, that, and the other. We're going to give you all this stuff. Because I have a sneaky suspicion, says society, that years from now, you are going to be so successful that you are going to pay a heck of a lot more in taxes than you're using right now. That's an investment. When you pay some money now to get more in return later on. This is why we invest in you poor people. Okay? Now, why am I pointing this out? It's because the Protestant work ethic has kind of taught us to look at them and say, they're all poor, drunk, drug addict felons. But we look at us and go, well, I'm kind of sort of awesomeness waiting to happen. Well, I don't know that I agree that it is so black and white. There's awesomeness waiting to happen out on the streets. And there's a lot of young folks here who 20 years from now are going to be doing the same thing they are now. I'm sorry, but some are. It's not up to us to decide which is which. But the Protestant work ethic has taught us this, right? Some people are one paycheck away from poverty. Really true. really true. I think it's really interesting because, don't get me wrong, school is great for things, for a lot of people. It's just leading them in debt and poverty. Okay, yes, and yes. By the way, we're just going to take you bad boys all the way to the top here. It's just craziness how well you're doing here. It's really true. Even schooling can bring about greater poverty. So, yes, absolutely. Okay. Here's my point. I can prove beyond a shadow of a doubt through one simple observation that panhandling is work. And here's my proof. We give them money. You are not required to pay for their service. You're not required to shop at a store you don't want to shop at. You're not required to buy a product you don't want to buy. Every once in a while, there are things we're required to buy. We're required to buy car insurance. We're required to, pay for this, that, and the other because of governmental things and so forth. And we're required to pay into Social Security. Fine. But we are not required to pay for the services that a panhandler provides. It is completely a free market. And yet, many of us, myself included, do pay for the services. So the question is not, do they provide value and services? The question is, what are the services they provide and where is that value? And that's different from person to person. The reason I occasionally give is different than why somebody else would occasionally give. So, and it's work. It's really hard work. Now, here's my last point. I'm going to come on over here. You guys know this. When I was 16 years old, I hitchhiked and juggled my way through Europe with my best friend. We were juggling on the streets for food. Over there, it's called busking, but it's illegal, right? Street performing, panhandling. So for this time, and there were other times where I have as well, I won't bore you with the details, but I've lived the life. We were homeless and panhandling for a month. And we were professional travelers. We were hitchhiking all around Europe, okay? Now, check this out. Gabby says, that's awesome. I barely passed. Oh, no, you're talking about the accounting, right? Keep it dang straight, right? Keep kicking ass. Absolutely. So now, here's my assertion. You don't have to agree. You're totally fine not to agree. But I'm going to go ahead and suspect something. I'm going to say that you're looking at this picture and imagining these two 16-year-olds hitchhiking around Europe, and you're saying to yourself, that is a whole nother level of cool. And you know what? I look back on it and think that was a whole nother level of cool. However, at the time, it was really, really, really difficult. My best friend and I have never had a falling out, but we almost had a falling out during this. It was so hard. We never slept right. It was really, really, really difficult work, but it's something we wanted to do. And yet, check this out. We look at these two kids living this life and go, wow, that's really something. But we look at a panhandler who's not quite as nicely dressed as we are, and we shaved somehow. I think we had some electric shavers. Anyway, we look at them and go, oh, that's really cool. It's interesting, right? You guys have seen, a car that says just married, and then it has their Venmo account. You've seen that before, right on the back of the window. That's panhandling. But somehow or another, they feel that they're entitled to it because they got married. So the point is, I maintain that through this example, who's a what's it? The Protestant work ethic abides with us today. So that's my point. There's a car by me that has that for months now. Yeah, you get it. And let's come back over. Hang on. I gotta make sure my mouse is in the right place. I'm gonna hit this button. Yes, this one goes all the way too. Okay. All right. Here's a couple of quotes. Me and Herman Melville were like this. Herman Melville said, this was from the book Moby Dick. Toil is man's allotment, toil of brain or toil of hands, or a grief that's more than either is the grief and sin of idleness. Oh, that is so Protestant work ethic, right? One thing I like to say when I'm going through a cashier, I'm going through a line. We don't do that much anymore because it's automated. But, I always try to cheer up a cashier because it's a tough job. It's a tough job, and they get a whole bunch of surly a-holes going through. So I like to say, hey, how's it going? And they're like, oh, I'm almost off. I get off in a few hours. And that's good. You look tired, but you can do it. And then I always say, the only thing worse than having a job is not having a job, because it really messes with us, right? Okay. So that brings us to part 2. But before we do that, we are going to have our break, our juggling break, because first of all, we've been going through this a lot, and you guys have been freaking on fire, all right? Which is great. I love it. But we got to get up and stretch, and the next section, it's kind of a doozy. All right. So if you're learning to juggle with me, get your juggling balls. If you're not, that's fine. Just stand up and do your happy dance. Okay. So what have we done so far? We did the one single ball, just throwing it back and forth. Remember, keep your hands stationary because they have to throw and catch, sequentially right after. Okay. And then we did 2 balls. And we said, hey, just going back and forth from the left hand to right hand, throw one ball and then throw the other, 2 nice arcs, just barely above eye line and so forth. And just do that over and over and over. Here's the thing. If you can do this with 2 balls, you can already juggle 3. There's a 3rd ball there, you just don't see it. If you're doing this with 2 balls, there is a 3rd ball in there already, okay? So I'll show you. This is me juggling 3 balls with just 2, okay? So it's already there. Now, I point this out because we're now got the 3 balls. 3. And your brain is going to freak out. It's just going to freak out. Because now you're going to see 3 balls and I only have 2 hands and they're all going to be in the air and all that sort of stuff. So it's going to be like you forgot everything you learned. But if you just take it slow, be calm, cool, and copacetic, it's going to work out for you. The first thing we're going to do with 3 balls is we're going to do what we did with 2. We're just going to throw them 1, 2, 3, and let them fall to the ground. And if we throw good arcs, they should hit the ground 1, 2, 3. So we're just going to stand back and go 1, 2, 3. That's it. That one hit a leg there. Do it again. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, right? And We'll even do it again, but this time starting with 2 balls in the left hand. 1, 2, 3. That's it. So once you get, I'm down here. Once you get that 1, 2, 3 and you hear them hit the ground in 1, 2, 3, you know you have your throws right? And you know that your rhythm is good. So then we're just going to do 1, 2, 3, but we're going to catch them. And you know you can catch them because you were catching them with 2. There's no difference. So starting with 2 in the right hand, you're going to just go 1, 2, 3, and you're going to end with 2 in the left hand. Right, left, okay? By the way, when I'm starting out, I like to have 1 ball in the palm of my hand with my ring finger and my pinky kind of holding it in. And then the other ball is being held with these 3 fingers, forefinger, the go to hell finger, and the thumb. What's that called? Middle finger. There we go. So I'm just kind of holding it like this right there. Okay. So you just go 1, 2, 3. And you want to hear that nice 1, 2, 3 hit. And then the other way. That's all you do is just do the 1, 2, 3 over and over and over. And then once you get that to where you can do it more or less consistently, you just do 4. And then just keep going. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then 5. That's it. Okay? And now you're juggling. That's all juggling is. And so it's that simple. Now, later on in future lessons and so forth, we'll do some other tricks and so on. But that's all it is. That is the basic forward cascade. Okay, so that is that. Let's come back over here. Actually, it's over here. And we'll push that button right there. All right. There you go. That's the new thing. That's the new name of the finger, guys, from here on out. I'm a professor. I have a PhD. I know what I'm talking about. All right. Here's the second reading. Business ushers in an economic social revolution. All right. This economic social revolution, the market system with its essential components of land, labor, and capital was born in agony. An agony that began in the 13th century and did not run its course well into the 19th. It's baloney that it's even run its course. It's still an agony. And this is all about capital versus labor. Employers versus employees. There is a constant struggle between employers and employees. This agony has not stopped, but it's at this stage that the agony really begins. So let's play with this. So first of all, and yeah, by the way, when we get this one up, we get extra points. Hey, is an NFT real? And if it is, why is it real? If it's not, why is it not real? A non-fungible token. Is an NFT real? So, tell me your thoughts on that. Is a non-fungible token, an NFT, real? And if you don't know what a non-fungible token is, an NFT, then I'm both surprised and proud. They are real, by the way. I think, but a lot of people say they're not. And they're right, too. It has value. Okay, so Colin says, well, it has value. And if it has value, then it's real to somebody, right? If you believe, then it is, right? LOL. All right. So just like regular currency, it's real to those who hold some perceived value, right? It is real, just not physical. Something doesn't have to be physical to be real, unless you put it, in a pendant or something like that. Is anything in the digital world real? Right? Okay. Excellent, excellent, excellent. It's as real as anything else. Here's the point, and I happen to agree with you, and we can talk more about cryptocurrency and NFTs if you want to at another time. But in any case, just because something does not exist in a tangible way, even if it is abstract, that doesn't mean it's not real. However, abstract is a tricky thing. By the way, I laugh about NFTs. I can still save a JPEG to my hard drive. Yeah, but you don't own it. Yeah, don't get distracted, Lon. Stay on topic. Okay, so land, labor, and capital did not exist. Let's talk about this. This is where we're going to start getting weird up in our heads. The whole world until the 16th or 17th centuries could not envisage the market system for the thoroughly sound reason that land, labor, and capital, the basic elements of production which the market system allocates, did not yet exist. And then you're like, the hell? Okay. Land, labor, and capital, in the sense of soil, human beings, and tools, are of course coexistent with society itself. But the idea of abstract land or abstract labor did not immediately suggest itself to the human mind any more than the idea of abstract energy or matter. Okay, let me show you what we're talking about here. And don't really do it. I don't want anybody pushing that button. Don't push the button, but pretend like this is real. Okay. Pretty nice day today. It's a little overcast, but it's clear. 44 degrees. You're welcome. I want everybody to send me $1 in payment for this sunny day. Now, you're not going to send me $1. Hey, Gardner, here's a hypothetical $1. Would you be prepared to send me $1 because I am allowing you, with what money? I am allowing you to enjoy this sunny day, right? My guess is that you are going to think things like, yeah, where money? Give me money. My guess is that you're going to say things like, you know what? You, Lon, don't own the sunny day, right? Yeah, you sound poor. Yeah, but you can still enjoy a sunny day, David. How can you own a sunny day? How can you charge other people for a sunny day, right? Well, you can, okay? You actually can. So check this out. Let's see. Welcome to the permanent dusk. Sunlight in cities is an endangered species. Many companies, when they build a building, have to pay a fee to companies that used to enjoy that sunlight. Because sunlight is a thing you can enjoy. You can even monetize sunlight by converting it into energy. You can put up solar panels. You can grow gardens. Yes, you have rooftop gardens or sunlight coming through the windows increases employee health and productivity. And so if a building blocks your sunlight, they have taken from you an actual monetizable commodity, a resource. Okay? Now, think about the view. Jocelyn, the view. That's where I was going to go. Jocelyn, so true. So now think about a view from a home. If you block somebody's view, the value of your home goes down in value. So a view is something you can buy and sell. This is what we mean by abstract. The idea that you can take something like my ability to see this direction in a certain distance, take something like that and make it something you can buy and sell. Okay? So now, this was weird stuff. Okay? So, let's talk about land. Take land, for example. Land. As late as the 14th century or 15th century, there was no land, at least in the modern sense of freely saleable rent-producing property. There were lands, of course, estates, manors, principalities, but these were emphatically not real estate to be bought and sold as occasion warranted. Throughout the vast majority of human history, you just lived on the land and farmed it. You don't own land. It's just your family has been here for umpteen generations, and it is just common land. Okay? Yes, we now have land parcels and land owners. That's the next slide. Yes. So imagine you have these whole communities that for generations and generations have just been farming this land, just like you've been breathing air like a selfish schmuck. You've been breathing air, you've been walking around in sunlight, you've been enjoying views. Wow. The audacity you have to avail yourself of all these commodities that could be bought and sold. Okay, sounds ridiculous. I know I'm being dorky. But the point is, you're living on this land, and then all of a sudden, somebody comes along and creates enclosures. Now, there's a good movie out there called Open Range with Kevin Costner and Duvall, I forget, what's Duvall's first name? Anyway, Open Range is the name of the movie. And the movie is actually about this exactly, okay? So here's from the reading. Wool has become a new profitable commodity, and wool demands grazing pastures for the wool producer. The pastures are made by enclosing the common land. Common land, thank you, Robert Duvall. Common land meaning it belongs to the commons. It's everybody's. Pastures are made by enclosing the common land, the patchwork crazy quilt of small scattered holdings, parcels, as you pointed out, right? Unfenced and recognized only by a tree here and a rock dividing one man's property from another, and the common lands on which all might graze their cattle or gather peat are suddenly declared to be the property of the lord of the manor and no longer available to the whole parish, where before there was kind of communal ownership, something ownership. Now there's private property. Okay, so in this movie, Robert Duvall and Kevin Costner are a couple of cowboys, and they're running cattle up to Montana or something or another, right? And so they're running cattle, and all of a sudden they come across a fence, and they're like, "What the hell is this?" They don't even what's this? And they're like, "Screw this! I'm going to cut the fence," and they go on through, and then of course the landowner freaks out. And it becomes a great big battle at the OK Corral sort of thing. So who decides who the landowner is? Bigger army diplomacy. if you have more guns and more people, you can walk onto the land and say, I own it. And if you have no guns and no people, there's not a whole lot you can do. And this is what's going on for the first time. And Robert Duvall and Kevin Costner are like baffled. How do you put a fence across America? We've been running cattle back and forth here forever. What's going on? And the landowner says, well, I have sheep. Go to hell. My dogs do not think about the monetization of the sun. No, they don't. Hey, wait, sunlight is a big building cost when it isn't there. Heating and lights are expensive. Okay, Christina, good point. Sunlight can either be a plus or a minus. But I promise you, when something's taken away from you, you'll find a way, you meaning the human species, you'll find a way to say that something that was a plus was taken away. You're not going to thank the building owner because now your air conditioning bills have gone down. Concept-based, yes. I love it. Dogs are the best. Okay, so now this is what's happening. So you got all these people who used to just live on the land. They would farm, they would run cattle, they would be named Robert Duvall and Kevin Costner, and they're just doing their thing because this is America, damn it, and it's all common land. But now it's parceled off with these enclosures. And the people with guns and more people go off to the former people who lived on the common land and say, all right, you have a choice. You either work for me now and I get most of your profits, or you're gone. So, but it was not merely the wholesale land grabbing that warrants attention. The tragedy is what happens to the peasant. Deprived of the right to use the common land, he could no longer maintain himself as a farmer. Since no factories were available, he could not, even if he had wanted to, metamorphose into a factory worker. Instead, he became that most miserable of all social classes, an agricultural proletarian. And where agricultural work was lacking, a beggar, sometimes a robber, usually a pauper. So I just want you to imagine that you have yourself a nice little business. It's not making a ton of money, but you can raise your family on this business. And it's all you know, and it's all you've ever known. And somebody comes along and says, hey, that business, that's mine now. And you're like, what the hell? And he goes, hold on, I have more people and more guns. So that's my business. And you're like, well, I want to keep doing it. And he says, oh, you're welcome to keep doing it, but I'll get 80% of the profits. So I'll give you just enough money that you can survive. But since it's my business, I should get the profit. So now and then even if they say get off, now you're poor, you're a pauper, you're a beggar, you just wander the country looking for work. So now we have created the landowners, those who own capital and workers, right? And yeah, this is theft. It's clearly prima facie theft, right? What was the word for common goods and let's see. What is the word for common good and infrastructural riches, right? Gosh, yeah, I don't know. That's good. Totally exploitation. This is why this struggle between employers and employees continues. This is where it's starting, okay? And yeah, it's starting with theft. It's starting with people saying, I want more, I'm going to take it, I don't care who it hurts. This is how it's starting. All right, let's continue on. How about abstract labor? All right, so is this what the reading is referring to? Yeah, this is all from the reading. So, okay. In the past, there were really only two ways that work got done, okay? One was called custom or tradition. Work just was from generation to generation. I'm a seventh generation farmer. I'm a farmer because my father was a farmer. My father was a farmer because my great grandmother was a farmer and all that sort of stuff, right? So for example, my last name is Schiffbauer, which is German. My ancestors came over from Germany on my father's side 5 generations ago. And in Germany, we were shipbuilders. In fact, many last names came about because of taxes. When they go and collect the taxes, they would collect it from Wilhelm Shipbuilder, right? The shipbuilder. So for generation to generation, we were shipbuilders. Same thing goes if your last name is Cooper, you were a copper miner. Tanner, you were a leather worker. And if your last name is Smith, guess what your ancestors did, right? So this is tradition. The other way that work got done was through command, meaning slavery or strong-arm tactics, subjugating people under the whip, a caste system, indentured servitude, things like this, okay? So for ages and ages and ages, this is all people thought how work could get done, especially the nasty work, right? It's either a family tradition or you're forced to do it because of some sort of caste system, right? But now with abstract labor, this idea is coming into play that maybe it's just a market system. You do whatever you want to do and whatever somebody is willing to pay you to do. Now, to you and I, this is like, hey, George, obvious. You're going to choose to go into the career you do because you want to do it and you know somebody will pay you to do it. So great, right? That's a free market system. There was no free market labor back then. And the idea freaked people out. I'll show you one of the reasons it freaked people out. It was this paradoxical, subtle, and difficult solution to the problem of survival that called forth the economists. For unlike the simplicity of custom and command, your last name is Schiffbauer or you're a slave, it was not all that at all obvious that with each man out only for his own gain, society could in fact endure. It was by no means clear that all the jobs of society, the dirty ones as well as the plush ones, would be done if custom and command no longer ran the world. So in other words, if I'm not allowed to tell John Smith that he's a blacksmith whether he likes it or not because your last name is Smith and all your ancestors have been Smith, so shut up and pick up the hammer. Or if I can't tell this person, you're a slave in this caste system, you have to work for me or I'm going to whip you. If I can't do that, who's going to do the nasty work? It was not obvious at the time. And here's the thing. This is really, really an important question that they were raising because you can read all this, right? It says society's existence hangs by a hair. A modern community is at the mercy of 1,000 dangers. If its farmers should fail to plant enough crops, if its railroad men should take it in their heads to become bookkeepers and all this sort of stuff, it's like there's so much unpredictability. How is society going to function if everybody's just deciding to do whatever they want to do? Now, this is a screen capture right here from an article. This was back in 2015, where there was a revolution in Lebanon. You are welcome to Google this report in Lebanon calls for more protests as police pushed back demonstrators. There was a whole revolution in Lebanon. Would you like to know what started the revolution? Garbage collection stopped. That's it, essentially. There were some other things that contributed and so forth, and then how the police responded, exasperated things. But essentially, it came down to people were sick and tired of garbage collection stopping for weeks and weeks. And so the people went to the streets and created a revolution. So if something like garbage collection can bring down a government, you can understand why people who were not used to the idea of folks deciding on their own what to do, you could understand why they'd be nervous about how this is going to go forward. Yeah, sounds about right, right? Here's the answer. Enlightened self-interest, the profit motive. If there was to be no external control, such as tradition or command, what incentive would actuate men in their industrial existence? What force would hold an economic society together? The answer is a plain one. Enlightened self-interest was the incentive. Universal free competition was the force. Okay, I'm making sure we're good on time. Here's what it comes down to. The profit motive. People will do crappy work if it's the only work available and they're trying to get ahead and they know it's temporary and it's just a means to pay the bills. So, for example, think of some of your first jobs. Maybe some of you are in your first jobs. They're not jobs you want to do forever. That's why you're in this class. But you're willing to do them because I got to pay the bills and it's temporary and it's going to allow me to, get ahead. It is a stepping stone job. They didn't understand back then that many people are going to do that kind of work because it allows them to earn a living. By the way, you can also earn a really good living doing some pretty crappy work. I think the average salary of garbage collection now is like $63,000 or something like that. In other words, a natural and sufficient economic force was always tending to act and to produce the best results, except insofar as interfered by external regulation. We're not going to pursue that right now. We'll pursue that more next week. So this was the free market system for jobs. If a man wishes to earn wages to receive payment, he must observe what work another man wants done or what goods another man desires and offer to do that work or furnish those goods so that the other man may be willing to remunerate him, pay him, okay? It was this way both obtain what they want, and if all others are similarly occupied, all wants will be satisfied as far as is practicable. So we're going to pursue this much more, but this is where the idea of free market labor first came into play, okay? And we're going to worry about this more later on next week. So, that's it. Here's a quote I like. Names are cages. Naming something limits its definition and pigeonholes its functions. Get into the abstract, right? Play with the ideas. Let the ideas go where they will and so forth. And you guys have been absolutely incredible. Just so you know, you're going to get some extra points because you maxed out the top one, the second one as well. Yeah, I really like this quote, Brittany, because oftentimes when we put a name on something, we really limit it. The same thing goes with our skills. If you say, I'm not good at math, well, good, congratulations, you're not because you said so, but not because you are. So, in any case, all right, that is that. And you guys crushed it. It was a long lecture. It was a really long lecture. You stayed engaged. You crushed it. I'm very, very grateful for this. As always, please send me an email and say, here, and that way I can throw some points at you. And as always, thank you, Brittany. I appreciate it. It's a long one, and it makes you think a lot. As always, I'm going to stick around. We've got a few of us here, so if you have any questions, comments, anything you want to discuss, let me know. Otherwise, we are all good. Gardner, thank you very much. Send me that email, say you were here, and we'll take good care of you. All right? Hey, thank you, Christina. Rebecca, I appreciate it. Oh, okay. Yeah, Tyler, I'll remember to do that today versus a couple weeks later. It's all right. We get you in there. We'll see you, Jaden and Colin and David. Have a good one, Gabby. What happens if I hit that again? I guess it resets. Okay. We've never gone all the way on the second one before. All the points are gone. Yeah, that's what happens in the next one. That's all right. I know where they are. I always know where they are. Hey, thanks, Brittany. Great contributions today. I super appreciate it. This doesn't show me my viewers anymore. I wonder why. They're always changing stuff. Always changing stuff. All right, looks like folks are dropping off, so fantastic. Have a tremendous rest of your week. It's still early in the week, but have a great week, and we'll talk to you again soon. Have a good one.